experience, learn the subject I was passionate about. So I really want to do biotech almost like, last 21 years, 22 years ago. This was the time of Dolly the sheep. So fortunately, I was a British Chevening scholar. So I had the privilege to work with British Chevening team. So I did my early biotech and management science in Scotland, and then I was part of Dolly the sheep, as I thought. Then I realized I'm not this R&D guy. I'm more a commercial person and more into. So I spent almost like 10, 11 years, pretty much every department of pharma, then venture into my own enterprise. So that's my humble background. So I will just quickly run through, today. So um, this is an area, it's more than, I'm just sharing a few slides for your thinking. Maybe some are to just give you some information, some to just inspire you if you're thinking in certain aspect. So I will spend maybe next 60 minutes also into it. Out of that, maybe last few minutes we'll spend for some discussion or questions. Maya, is that what you need?
Yes, yes, precisely. Thank you. Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
brilliant. So you can all see my screen clear? Okay, so today's our topic is study and job opportunities in the UK. So in terms of why you need to come to UK, because if you look into the opportunities across globe, you should have a precise reason. If I'm investing in a business, if I'm spending my time and resource, I need to have a genuine reason. So when you think about studying in UK, first thing is there is a cost, there is a complexity, there is lots of investment of time, resources required. So you should have a genuine, a compelling reason to do that. Otherwise, you may think that, oops, why do I need to do all these things? So the one important thing is UK, because of Brits were colonizing India for a long period, there are lots of elements we share in common, right from driving on the right side to the communication language to cultural element. There are lots of commonality there. So in terms of adaptation, in terms of getting involved with the culture and job prospect, there is an upper hand for Commonwealth country members, especially for Indians. And out of the, maybe if you look at the university rank list, out of the top 10 universities in the world, maybe out of 40% or 50% of them belongs to British University. So Brits were always pretty good in education standards. So if I summarize, so there are world-renowned university, high-quality education, variety of courses, shorter courses. Specifically, post-graduation in UK is typically 1 year, whereas in US and various other places could be 2 years. So it's very sharp, very short, very condensed, and you get the value for it. And develop excellent language skills. Obviously, if you're in England, you don't have a choice. I think one of the joke I heard when I came to UK is even the beggars in England speak English. And I thought, wow, So international students are welcomed. Sometimes some countries, we go to Scandinavia or Germany, some parts, because of the language restriction, you find it a little bit challenging to get involved. Whereas in UK, international students, UK government knows that it's a phenomenal revenue. It's a significant investment India as a country putting into UK. So they value it, okay? And it's multicultural, it's brilliant work opportunities, financial benefits are there, unique culture, and UK is a great place to live. And I just put the UK's map there, very recent. There's lots of my colleagues and friends when they come to UK. What the hell is UK? Because when you go for a football, there is Scotland, another country, Wales, another country, Northern Ireland is a country. What the hell is it? So if I summarize, United Kingdom is actually, as a union, it's a one union. That's what you call United Kingdom. That's include England, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland. And Ireland, you have to be careful. If you look at the map, that pink color part of the Ireland, that's the UK's part. The other is called Republic of Ireland. That's an independent country. They are a part of EU. Since Brexit, Northern Ireland, Scotland, England, and Wales is part of independent outside the European Union political and economical outlay. Okay, so England, Scotland, and Wales is no border controls. It's all one country, but as we call states, they have their own parliament, they have their own legislation, they have their own controls. But coming to the central control, like the central government in India, the Westminster Parliament based in London, they take the upper hand. But each state do have, or if I call it such a terminology, they have their own differences. So just for your understanding. And in terms of weather, in terms of the accent, as you know, Thrissur is so different to Trivandrum in terms of Malayalam itself. If you go to Glasgow to Aberdeen, the accent is so strong. And when I ended up in Scotland, I even asked, do you guys really speak English or Gaelic? It was that strong accent. So you have to be quite prepared to accept very strong accents and various challenges there. So if you look at the UK point of view, there are 395 universities in UK. You can see such a very established. It's a small country with 62 million population. They have 395 universities and 50,000 courses. But UK, you have to be careful. Like in Kerala, if you maybe come to Kochi, how many colleges are there? Maybe hundreds of colleges there, and maybe 30–40% of maybe a tin pot outfit with nothing behind it. So in same as in UK, you have to be careful. There are lots of enterprises, and if you look back, some of the enterprises, wonderful Indians may be behind it. They may call Oxford Central University, nothing to do with Oxford. It may be a small shed with a wonderful signboard. And they can do that. So when you look for universities and colleges, do your due diligence, find out where you're getting involved into it. Okay, and there are different deadlines for joining universities. The amount of money will vary and the living cost will vary to places. For example, London is one of the most expensive places in the world to live. If you compare the top 10 most expensive places, London is one of them. So some people think that London is an exciting place. If you like Mumbai, you may like London. But if you like some peace, harmony, and great place to learn, London may not be a good place because cost is high, commutation is difficult, the culture is not great because it's a very mixed culture area. Whereas you need to understand the British authentic culture, learning lots of exciting things, you may have to go to a suburban universities, which may be better quality in education. But if you want part-time job, cities are better. It doesn't mean that the rural parts are not that bad. You have to pick and choose how you do it. There are scholarships available. 2 years post-study visa, which is a great thing UK introduced this. When I was in here 20 years ago, I have to go through a very complex process of a work permit clearance to get a job. And even though people are willing to offer you a job, getting a work permit was extremely complex, very expensive for the company. And you can only apply if there is no European Union or Brits qualified better than you. Whereas now with this 2 years post-study work visa, if you get a job offer and if you have an opportunity, your visa process is much more streamlined. It's a great place to build your career. So this is just Economic Times. I was just doing some review to see what's telling. Actually, I didn't know that in 2021, there's a record number of students, 3,200 students from India has already been accepted in 11th of August. So I think it may be double the number now, because when you talk about end of September, because normally lots more students end up in September intake. August and September is the biggest peakest time. So if you're thinking of studying in UK, you are not alone. There are lots more people are interested about it. They are all working on this process. So just to give you an background about what's a typical intake. So as I said, September, October is the major intake. That's where most of the universities, but they do have a January, February intake. It's depend on university to university, courses to courses. And sometimes they do a May and June intake also. So sometimes don't make up your mind, oh, September, I have to wait till next September. Not necessarily. Do the research, find out how can you know about the course, how can you understand the intake timings, and then make your plans. And international students, as I said, this work permits are available, but you can do in part-time work and up to 20 hours per week, and sometimes you can do full-time during the holidays and week period. Okay. Cost, maybe you may all be thinking that how much is going to cost me typically studying in UK. So just to give an insight into it, a postgraduate course start from £8,000 to maybe £30,000. Now, if I just put a ballpark as 100 rupees per pound as exchange rates, varying between 99 to 103. So this post-COVID, the exchange rate has been quite challenging. It's almost like 15 to 20% increase in the exchange rate. There are courses well above 30,000. If you go to University College of London to do an MBA, it will cost you well above £100,000. 1 crore will be the minimum fee. So it's a huge range, but there are courses starting at £8,000 or 8 lakhs rupees. So it's not astronomically expensive. So you can look into it. Visa processing fees, again, based on exchange, it may change near to £1,000 for the basic process for what you need to show per month, what you need to be in account. Accommodation varying from 35,000 to 75,000, or even if you live in central London on a nice apartment, can cost you well above 3 to 4 lakh. So you have a choice. But there are students shared accommodation less than £200, I know. So it's depend on how you manage, how you organize. So that's a beauty in UK. If you're very planned, very organized, you can live in a very minimal cost. Because I remember when I was a student, I had a couple of North Indian friends. 4 of them, they lived a month with £80. That's including their accommodation, their food, and everything. And 4 of them shared in one small room, and they cooked. Okay, £80 may not be possible after 20 years. Still is possible on maybe £160. Very reason is they were extremely careful what they buy, extremely careful how they spend. And by the time they finished the course, they paid the full tuition fees because they were working almost like 18 hours a day. So they finished the class straight away, go for the part-time job. Weekend they work full time. So I think one of the fellow, he was a naval architect from Kochi University. He had savings after paying his full entire tuition fees. So it depends on what you want to achieve and how you want to do. And travel can be a little bit expensive. If I give a bit more context into that one, the visa application, you have a special application fees, then immigration health charge, because that will cover for your medics. So lots of people ask, when you come to UK, if you have a medical emergency, don't worry. If you have any medical emergency, UK is one of the best places. They will not ask for what's in your credit card. Do you have a health insurance? They straight away first you treat you. And then if you are a student, you're covered for medical by default. So even however complex your treatment is, they've been looked after by government. One thing lots of students make a mistake is they all stay a bit away from the university and they tend to commute, say 40 minutes, 1 hour commute. Transport can be very expensive, in public transport or fuel in the street. And if you're in London, for example, getting into London on a car, you have the congestion charge to pay. That can be a per day, somewhere like 1,500 to 2,000 rupees just to get into the London city. So there are lots of elements you need to look when you're going to a city. You need to know which part you're going and how you manage and control your cost. And your flight ticket, sometimes people think that it's very expensive to fly to UK. Not necessarily. If you plan or organize well in advance, you can fly for 25,000 rupees, or in some cases when less than that, a one-way ticket, and you may get a return ticket for 30 to 35,000 rupees. But you should not wait till September, that peak time when everybody is flying. Your ticket will be 10 times higher or maybe 4 times higher. So again, that planning and organizing it's very important. One thing to keep in your mind is exchange rate is a huge element. As I said, 20% change in exchange rate from last year to this year. That's a 20% increase in your cost. And if you don't plan and work with your bankers, when you convert money, they'll charge another 2 to 5% extra on top of it, and it can all end up in a very expensive deal. Or sometimes people will end up saying, I'll pay money to this person in Kerala, they'll pay money in UK. And if it's all can be a scam and illegal activities, be very, very careful. Don't fall into any of those traps. Do everything properly, investigate it, study it, and then do it. Yeah, in terms of visa, I just put a slide for your reading, but one element they look for it, they'll expect to have at least 9 months worth of living cost available in your bank account. So each month they expect somewhere like you need to spend £1,000 or 90,000 rupees. Or if you're in London, they expect somewhere like 1.2 lakhs in your account. So 1.2 lakhs multiplied by 9 times expected in your bank to show that you have the means to live in UK. And especially if you're going for a visa interview, you're saying that you're going to self-fund by working part-time, straight away your visa will be in compromise because they expect you as an investing student coming to pay your money to the country rather than you take the money away from the country. But fair point, they allow once you legally you can come and work, but that shouldn't be the expectation you give to during visa interviews. Scholarships. There are lots of scholarships available in UK. So some people think that my academics are not brilliant. Will I get in? It's just not necessarily based on academics. It's based on what are you, what potential you have, what additional activities you've done. So if you are a multi-skilled person with lots of aspiration, lots of entrepreneurship, or your cultural element, definitely give a shout. So when I slide the slide, it's just go through this scholarship and see that can you fit into it. Even some universities, if you negotiate with them, sometimes you pay the fees as upfront one, short, they can give you up to 10% discount on the fees rather than you pay as 3 installments. So you can work out the permutation combinations. And when Maya asked me to do this, I was checking with some of my staff. I have 29 of my staff are Indian students. They all joined me as apprentices or trainees. And I checked with two of the guys joined this year, and they said they used, and two of this is interestingly, they're Malayalis. So I asked them, they used the agency in Kochi, and the agency helped them to negotiate some scholarship. On the same time, they've given a warning, the agency can be very pushy towards the university. Certain universities, maybe they get a better commission. So what this guys did is, they found where you want to study, find out what's the real cost. They went to the agency, but agency will not charge you anything from you. They charge you only from the university. So the fees was paid, but they were insisting they want to do this course, this university. So they managed to get a scholarship from the university with the help of this agency. And same time, one other fellow said, this agency, he wanted to study in UK, but the agency always brainwashed to go to Canada. So apparently the agency may have a better benefit from Canada. So sometimes that's a choice you have to make. So for me, if I look into it, Canada is a bit more further distance to travel. The weather condition can be a bit more extreme in various parts, and sometimes you may need to know French and various other language to settle in. But job prospects as a country, they're much, much bigger and huge than UK. So there are pros and cons. You have to do a bit of research to find out what your choices are. In my slides, I just put some useful links. So if you're looking to study, the best place to look is British Council's website, because that's a government, the UK Common and Foreign Office's site. So they give you much more insight into what to do, where to look. Just looking into the job and career opportunities UK, I just dumped what was the top 20 jobs last year. And you can see, so when you say median salary is like £75,000 to 75 lakhs, that's the annual salary. But you have to always understand UK is very good in taxation. And you have to 30-40% tax based on the scale what you fit it in. But this is just the last year, so every year it varies. But it doesn't mean that this is the only higher paid job. There are so many range of different jobs. This is the jobs I put with the job satisfaction and job score versus the titles. Okay. So before I go down to the job prospects in UK, I just want to give you some insight into how you pick your career. And I've seen lots of our Indian students making this mistake, including some of my employees. So I'll just walk you through this to make you think from a different angle. So I always want to start with Gandhi. I always believe the best management guru, rather than a political leader and rather than a freedom fighter and lots of other respects we have for Gandhi. Some elements, his inside thoughts and things is fine, amazingly beautiful. Even in UK, my British colleagues also really appreciate some of the insight. I don't know how much as Indian students we have the insight now. Sometimes we may be seeing Gandhi as a picture in our currencies rather than not much more than as a phenomenal influencer in our life. So a man is the product of his thought. What do you think he becomes? So if you want to be an entrepreneur, nobody can stop you, but you need to really believe into it. So my humble advice to any of you students want to build your career and your future, you need to have a clear plan. If you think that, okay, let me go to UK and find out what comes and I'll just explore the country, to me, it's a high risk scenario. I'm not saying that cannot work out, but it's a high risk. This is like you take your car and you just decide to drive without knowing where you're going. You may end up some exciting places, but you may not reach your destination, or you may waste lots of fuel, energy, and effort. The very same applies to your career. Okay. So when you plan your career, choosing a career, it's a hard thing, I know, because you've all been studied engineering, management science, various other parts. It may be because of your parents asked you to do, or maybe because of your peers are done it. So you may all pick and choose some sort of activities. So, but what you need to be careful is you have to have a clear goal and just make an assessment, take a flip chart or a paper to say that that's what I really think I enjoy. Most of you may need it. Financial benefit could be number one. Not a problem. It's good to have that objective, but you really achieve you really achieve what you can only when you work with a precise plan, with a precise objective. And the way you do it is, for example, I have seen I used to have a next door neighbor when I was a student. He used to be, he's done his engineering in UK, he's a Scottish fellow, but he went to end up doing plumbing. So I said, why are you working as a plumber? He said, you know, I don't want to go to 8 to 5 job and put a suit and tie and doing rubbish. I would rather go and spend my time uh, with uh, uh, my customers and clients when I have freedom. So I said, what's about your financial benefit? He said, I earn 4 times more than I would have worked for an employer. So I said, what are you saying 4 times? How much you earn? He said he earned somewhere like 3,000 to 4,000. So 4 lakhs to 5 lakhs rupees he was earning, working 8 hours a day as an independent plumber. So it's a financial reward is not necessarily based on what the number of degrees you have, the competency you have, the way you take. He was an excellent plumber. He could do a job very precisely, very quick. So it's word of mouth. You know, people will share his name and say, okay, you always call Stuart, he'll do a brilliant job. So then he didn't have even a website or anything. He was always busy. He only worked 5 days a week, never worked weekends. He never worked evenings. He had a cool life. So what I'm trying to say is, because he had an aspiration, he had a spark in that particular area, he mastered that particular field, he developed it. So when you choose your career, make sure that you have to work on it, really do a research of all the jobs there and find out what skills, what competency you can add into it, then flourish from there. If you take some random thing and do an experiment, to me, it's a bit of high risk with your future. So career planning, the typical way to do career planning is know your values, So you have to understand what your values are and then learn about yourself. So how to find a value? Are you a communicator? Are you an engineer? Are you a technical person? You have to understand a little bit of yourself and then identify what's your skill, what you're good at, what you're bad at, and then research all the career options. Then make a plan. Okay, this is my career option. I want to be a chief financial officer, or I want to be an engineering project manager, or I want to be a project director. Then find out what skills that role requires, and then you work towards it. Then you can achieve that career. Otherwise, you think that, okay, I'll just go to UK and do a bit of course and find a job, very, very high risk. Okay. And then assessing your skills, you can do a couple of ways. You can do it based on academic strength, based on personal qualities, based on people skill. And you may have a combination of those one. You may think that I don't know whether I have skill in any of those. It's okay, because till you make an assessment, you don't know. And if you have a passion, if you have a vision, you can make skill in any of those areas. And if you look at all the sort of capable people, they were not the 99% mark holding persons or somebody who can learn everything academically as a gold star academician. That doesn't mean that their career is brilliant, because they may be very good in absorbing information and regurgitate it in a paper. Your skill, each and every person, I believe, is born with the equivalent amount of intellectual capacity and brain capability. It's their aspirations, their passion, who they interact with, what they read, how they expose themselves into the external world. That's all influence their thinking. That's what make them to have a desired exposure to a career path or desired exposure to certain development in their career and life. So research the job career. The first thing is identify the skills and experiences. For example, you decided I want to be a chief executive officer of a pharma company. Then you need to understand what is pharma industry is about. How you become, you model that chief executives in pharma and find out what are the skills they have, how do they reach there, and you create a career path. So determine the general requirement for the job. Learn about the day-to-day tasks and responsibilities. Research the company and the employer. Determine the company's philosophy. The more you know about the job, the stronger your candidate will be. Then one thing I always insist, and I'm very passionate about it, do the basic tasks to a PhD level. See, if I take an employee, so I have between all my 5 companies, I may have near to 100 plus employees. And some of my team, I have one of my global compliance manager called Mark Buff. He would have joined with only working experience in a McDonald's. So when he was 16, he started working in McDonald's. He didn't have a degree. He came with a CV. He said that he worked 7 years in Mac, but He said every year he was a award-winning employee for his aspiration and his skills. So when I looked into his brilliant personality, very driven character, I told him, you have to come, you have to learn lots of things. We'll give you training and coaching. You will not believe he was one of the star employees of mine because he was so driven, so committed, so precise. But if I just put him as an example, why he become from a, when he's working in Mac, he may be earning maybe 15, 16,000 pounds per annum. Now he's earning well above 70,000 per annum. So from 16 lakh to 75 lakhs in 7 years, what is his basic skills were very, very organized. If I sit in a meeting, he always takes a note and then he understands which is my priority. And then he think on his feet and absolutely make sure that each and every task is done to a precise, perfect level. He communicates it, he documents it, he priority manages it, and ensure the job gets done, whatever it says. So it's not about the quality of degree you have. It's not about how good your language is. This sort of the basic thing make you a professional. This sort of basic things make you an absolute successful professional with achieving your career. So so one is this planning, organizing, and priority management skill. Number two, your willingness to learn. So you go to a job, you don't know what is the job about. Immediately you have to visualize, okay, what should be the job? What's my duties? What I should do, what I shouldn't do. That's a skill to learn it. So you walk into an organization, sometimes you may wait for the HR to train various other people to train. Wrong. Before you go to the organization, you should have studied about the organization, studied about the culture, what they do. And then when you go there, you have to be very inquisitive to understand exactly what's the activities you do. What's your department? What do they how you do the job? Who is really good in doing the job? What they do different? That interest, that mindset make a difference. Then third element is the communication part. It's just not between communicating to your peers, how you communicate and interact with your rest of the colleagues, with the stakeholders. Do you really understand them? Do you really respect them? And do you have a clear communication rather than being attitude or sometimes being a bit shy? All these elements you need to know. So there are lots of aspects, but those basic aspects you do to an extreme precision level. You have an engineering degree with 90% mark, may not have any benefit in your job. Sometimes this basic level to a PhD precision will give you a super career boost. So always think about it. And especially students coming to UK think that, okay, I can come and get a job here. Guys, if you haven't those sort of basic skill to a precise level, getting a job is very tricky. Because when you go through interview, because Brits by default are very well organized, very structured, okay? And Indians, sadly, as students, we are very unorganized. We are very creative, but we are not the organized community because that's the way we are living. We are not very organized, chaotic environment. You get into road, people don't follow traffic rules. You get into universities, you try to do certain things, try not to do certain things, because that's how we grow up. And it's not a problem. That's how a developing economy works. That's how a developing environment works. And that gives us certain amazing skills because we can multitask. We can be flexible. We can be adaptable. We can be very agile. We will not get stressed out for tiny things because otherwise we'll not be able to survive in our environment. But the challenge is, with all these wonderful skills, we have some phenomenal limitations. One, we are not necessarily organized. We don't create a priority plan. We don't necessarily put the real precise effort on what to do. We don't know how to communicate, what to communicate, when to communicate. More than everything, there is an element called emotional intelligence. That emotional intelligence is you understand what to say, how to assess. That's a skill. If you haven't understood or learned about emotional intelligence, if you are looking for a career in UK or elsewhere, please do research about it. There are wonderful YouTube videos. Please look into it. Okay. So you may be thinking, rather than giving a job opportunities and telling you about UK job, why the hell I'm talking about all this nonsense? It's purely because, trust me, this is what helps your career. It doesn't matter whether UK or India. Some of these basic principles I have seen with myself and my employees, it's helped them. These are the basic tools you need to know. Okay. And I am a strong believer, if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. That's a very, very important part. Selecting the course, to selecting your career, to selecting your job, you need to be very, very carefully planning each and every step. How you're going to finance it, how you're going to travel it, which university you're going to find it. You should have a clear path. You have to document it, not in your mind, on a piece of paper, so you can assess each and every step. So when you plan and organize the things. Again, as a summary, I can say, pick the things what you really love so you may really able to flourish. See, I have come across one of a nice guy, he's a chemical engineer, but brilliant in drawing, brilliant in artwork. But he thought he's a brilliant engineer. I put him in a process engineering role. He was a disaster. Then I moved him into an artwork area and marketing role. He's absolutely flourishing and brilliant in that job. So it's sometimes you may have a degree, but that may not be your passion. So keep the degree to get a base job, to get a starting element, but working in that starting element, flourish your career. If it's, you may be a commercial person, better a marketeer, better artist person. So, and then you see what is the requirement. So if you're learning the basic computer science, if that's what you're going for, do you really need an engineer to do a computer science, or do you need a management professional to do computer science, or you want to focus more into AI element or sustainability element or more environment control? You look into see what's the world is going to do in the next 10, 20 years. Because last year has been phenomenal. The entire world has to think, change, and behave differently. So the organization, business, career are all going to shape significantly based on this pandemic. So therefore, you have to look into articles, media, seeing what is the future, what is coming on our way, so that you adapt your career, you adapt your learning, adapt your job perspective towards that one. One more element is sometimes we all get confused. Ability is what you are capable of doing. Motivation determines what you do. Attitude determines how well you do it. So make sure that guys have that great attitude so that you just do even a simpler task to an excellent level. And I love Kalam. If you haven't read Kalam's books, please do read it. Otherwise, you just miss lots of days in your life. Or that's what I say. What an inspiration. What a truthful man. So what he always said, if you fail, never give up. Fail means first attempts or in learning. End is not the end. In fact, end means effort never dies. If you get no as an answer, remember next opportunity. And that's what he has done, where from his humble background. So if you think that, oh, I struggle to maybe raise the finance for studying overseas, if I don't have a good degree, I have this problem, that problem, the more problem you have, you are the lucky one. The people with more privileges at home are challenging because they haven't got challenges, so they may not necessarily able to think outside the box and put their effort. If the more trouble, more headaches, more challenges, more problems you have fire in your belly, you take it to the next level and you make your life and career happen. And it doesn't stop with one stage. You keep on drive for perfection. You make your life better. And the last part I just want to share is, again, as I said, Gandhi, one thing you have to keep always in your mind is, live as if you were die tomorrow. Learn as if you were living forever. So every day, make sure you put the effort, do the research, learn something new, share from each other, create these wonderful communities around you, make some great friends. And as Indian values, the one thing I love about India is, we still have lots of family values. We still have lots of social values. I still have all my school and college friends. I spent before pandemic, I used to come every 6 weeks to India, and I used to still meet my friends and families quite often, because that sort of bonding and elements are there. Again, as a student, make sure that those are your biggest values. You maintain it, and that will give you lots more value in your life. Okay, so that summarizes my slides. So maybe we can pick up some topic for discussion. I hope this is of some use to you guys.
Yes, Giby, it was very nice. It was very motivational, inspirational too, as well as very educational. So the floor is open for question, guys. You can either post it in the chat or you can just unmute your mic and ask. So there is one question already. Do we have to renew visa per month?
No, when you get a visa, you normally get the visa for the full duration of your course. So when you finish the course, and sometimes the visa depends on the duration of the course. If it's a 12 months course, UK normally they give up to 15 months or maybe up to 18 months. It's depend on courses to courses. Your financial situation varies, but definitely they'll give you to the full duration of the course. And if you're renewing a monthly basis, is a very expensive and very complicated process. And I haven't seen that ever happen.
Questions,
and
guys?
one more thing, compared to maybe like Middle East, I sometimes hate when I travel to Middle East. When you go to a hotel, you have to surrender your passport. You feel like they will treat you like a criminal. In England, in my last 20 years, I've never been asked my passport by anybody ever in the street, So you don't need to carry your passport and say that I'm Indian. This is my passport. This is my visa. No, no, no. You keep somewhere safe in your locker. You can keep a photocopy in your image in your phone or somewhere, but no one will ask you to present at the police station or somewhere unless you are in a messy situation. They may ask for verification. Otherwise, once you finish the university admission, passport and visas are meant to keep somewhere safe.
Okay. Another question. How long will it take to get PR after work permit?
You have to work 5 years, and then you have to that 5 years without any major break. I think they will not allow more than certain number of days. I think 180 days within that 5 years you cannot be away from the country or non-continuous job. So there are certain controls and conditions around it. But after 5 years, you qualify for a permanent work, permanent residence visa. So to do that one, you have to do an exam, which is a very simple exam, knowing about British culture, the English basic awareness is compared to IELTS. This is nothing. It's a very simple, straightforward exam, but you have to do that process.
Okay. Why is it difficult to get a job in UK than US or Canada?
It depends what you mean by difficulty. As I said, if you are a great engineer with an 80% mark with an MBA, come to UK, look for a job. To me, that person is a little bit daft. That's the way I say it. Because why should a UK employer give a job to an Indian student who has got a degree in engineering, an MBA, but no experience? Who will have an MBA with no experience? Because even people with experience doing an MBA, I sometimes find that they don't really understand management science. They don't really understand how to manage. So how can you give a management job? So your basic, you have to start at somewhere base. So in UK, if you haven't got the skills, either you should have good skills, and that skill is, as I said, organizing, communication. It's nothing rocket science. It's not about how well you know to talk about the thermodynamics or the fluid science or electronics or coding. That's not what I'm talking about. It's about your basic skills. Are you organized? Are you good in these things? And then you have to have some work experience. If you come completely with zero work experience, zero skills, looking for a job, your probabilities are very, very minimal. That's one. Number two, UK is, as I said, 62 million population, and it's a very small country. If you look into that, the country is as big as maybe Kerala. That's all. So it's not a large country. It's a small country. So, but entrepreneurship point of view, UK is good, whereas US is 350 to 317 million population. It's a much bigger country, much bigger economy. So you have a much more bigger bandwidth. But one element in UK is UK work culture is, in my point of view, because I work with lots of my American colleagues, it's much better. I can't generalize it, but it's much more organized, much more what we call elegant, and much more refined. Whereas American work culture can be a glorified Indian work culture in certain aspects. But you have lots more perspective.
Okay. Any more questions, guys? Please either unmute yourself or put it in chat, please. So one question I had, Giby, just now because you asked. So just when you said about MBA, if they come for an MBA without experience, it's not easy to get a job. Is it the same for masters? Suppose they go for after BTech, they go for masters without any experience. Is it the same scenario? Do they need to work first in India before going for masters to UK?
Again, if you come to do a master's, your skills are very basic. If you haven't got any great skills, if you haven't got the employability elements in you, it's always challenging, because why should somebody employ an overseas person when you have a local candidate with the skill set available? So this is where the advantage for Indian students are. As I said, because we're very agile, we are adaptive, we are very, very flexible. And if we build the UK's core strength, which is very planned, organized, and structured, if you bring those skills, there are opportunities. In UK, if you look at just Google and see number of open, for example, if you're looking for electrical engineering, look at in UK and see, you can see there are 3,000 plus vacancies available. There are shortages, okay? And even electrical engineering, for example, is a shortage job. Even work permit allocation has got a fast track system. You don't need to even advertise, and without advertising, I can employ somebody. If I have a sponsorship visa, if I have the capability to sponsor people, I can absorb somebody. There are almost 30 jobs as so-called shortage jobs. So the way you find the marketability of yours is, if you think of doing certain course, find that course, and then do a market study saying that what number of vacancies, is it a shortage job, that will give you the answer. And then as soon as you join the course, even if you have not experience, do some part-time job that will give you, even it's however hard it is, that will give you communication skills, that will give you the local cultural integration element. And the desired field, the moment you come down, you speak to all the companies around where you're living or studying the course, and speak to them and make sure that you engage with those companies, and you start applying for some part-time job, or do some project for them, and then you get to know them, they get to know you, so it's much easier to handle. So all the uh, students I have come across made great career moves are those one worked with companies, and they already have an exposure to them, and the company knows them before they go on for an interview, because then the process is much slick.
So is it like they during their masters they get to do internship in companies? Is that how they get to
Yeah,
know
because
about
you
the
have to do
company?
a project during, yeah, you have to do a project during masters, and then using that project stage, you do the targeted company, and that's the best element, because you may get sometimes get paid, and same times you sometimes you get the opportunity to work with companies.
Is that an easy aspect of getting internships into companies?
It is because the colleges and universities do have lots of tie-up, and UK companies are very open-minded, but it's based on, again. See, I can give an example. I had a friend, actually a Malayali, when I was studying. He was doing MBA with me. So at those times, somebody with an MBA just with no experience getting a job was very difficult. But he got a job. The reason is he put 114 applications, okay, and he got 11 interviews, and out of 11 interviews he got 2 job offers. And in that year, in Indians, there were 61 Indian students came to do MBA, and the average tuition fees was something like 25 to 30,000 pounds was the fees. um, and interestingly, only 4 of them ever got a job, because none of them put the effort. Some people just put 3 4 applications, and then, oh, it's difficult, they went back. Whereas this fellow was very committed. He put all the effort. He said, I will have to find a job because I've taken a loan against my property. I cannot go back and put my family into trouble. So he was absolutely determined. He got it. And now he's British Airways is one of the senior management staff. So he's done very well in his career, you know. And when you look into it, he was a mediocre student. He wasn't a bright spark or anything. Only thing difference to him to others was he had an absolute requirement, phenomenal passion, and he never given up.
Wow, nice.
And
Another
even
question.
another, he studied in Malayalam medium. His English was so pathetic. I have to translate to him in the early days how to communicate with teachers and other colleagues. And 2 3 years ago, I met him. He was doing a presentation and training to his entire staff. In a conference hall with 120 people. Look at that. That's what you can acquire and learn. So if you have a mindset, you will learn anything.
Wow, fantastic. That's phenomenal. Another question. Why the number of students has gone up despite Brexit and access to EU restricted?
See, Brexit doesn't have anything to deal with UK job, because even if you have a UK student qualification, you have to get a Schengen visa to work in EU. So Brexit actually made more opportunities, because after Brexit, most of the European Union big professionals has left the country. So there's a huge vacancy. There are doctors, nurses, accountants, even UK. We were having fuel shortage. Last week I was in London. I was struggling to get fuel. There is 70% of the fuel station didn't have fuel because there is no truck drivers. So UK government is issuing 5,000 visas for drivers who can drive truck. And you not believe they are paid 50 lakh salary to drive a truck. Yeah. So because of after European Union, because Polish and Romanians were the predominant drivers were serving UK as a country, and farmers are struggling because there is nobody to pick their fruits and vegetables because all this European workers gone. So post Brexit, UK got a phenomenal. I would say low to medium skilled workforce has disappeared. So there is lots of vacancies. Even high skilled workers also, because of lots of Germans and French and Belgians decided, why should I stay in the UK? Because they're not part of the EU. They all started going back. So to me, the vacancies and opportunities will evolve in the coming weeks and months and years.
Any more questions, guys? You can always unmute and ask if you want. Any issue of racism?
I would say if this is a very interesting topic. You know, I always felt Indians are more racist than anyone else. You know, we have more caste system, we have more communal system. We treat people based on their economy, finance, the way they look, they act. When you look from that to UK, good lord, it's, if you scale from India, if I put a scale of 1 to 10, a scale of 8, I put UK scale of 4. Is it there? It is there. You know, there are people, there are a minority of people see US racist. But you know, in last 20 years, did I ever experience racism? May not be. It could have, because I've been called, you know, in races in UK they call you Paki. I have been called maybe Paki in at least 3 or 4 occasions when I'm driving through some rough areas by some idiots who are drunk. Do I need to bother about it? No, because they're not calling. Because their income, their lack of exposure, that may be what they're doing. But in terms of professional environment, if you're competent, there is no disparity or discrimination. You can grow as much as you want. I would say this is what sometimes India is an embarrassment. We have lots more politics, lots more ego, lots more, you know, layers of corruption involved. Whereas in UK, if you're a skilled person, your peers, and it doesn't matter which nationality you are working with, they will all help you. The political element can be there, but it's not as anywhere to scale to you. So racism is there. It's depend on how you react into it, what personality you are. If you're a very involving, caring, management skill EI person, it will not affect you, and it can be there in the background. But it's getting much reduced. And just from a legal point of view, if I call a white fellow anything in racial abuse, nothing happened to him. If the white fellows even sadly look at me with an attitude, poor fellow will in jail. So the law is so biased. We are in such an upper hand. You know, most of my friends take the we all pull each other's leg because they are so scared to say anything which is politically incorrect because they can be in trouble.
Any more questions, guys? Anything, any advice, GB, you'd like to give to the students who are, planning to come there? Any tips or anything other than, I mean, you've already given a lot, but any more pointers or anything you think, what if somebody had told you at that time, it would have helped you, something like that.
Yes, to me, there are 3 things. One, that planning. You have to really think why I want to do it and what benefit I'm going to get. And you're going to put a phenomenal investment. So in your early day of life, you need to think that if it's not your money, your parents' money, or if it's a bank loan or whatever it is, it's a huge investment. You know, if you put that money in bank account and put 10% interest rate, then you have to think that investments is really worth it. So therefore, you have to be very carefully thinking and planning, is it really worth that investment? That's the first part. Okay. Second part is you do a proper research. Don't take perception because of somebody said this is good, that university is good, that course is good. No, you have to do your research. You need to really know what you're doing, why you're doing, why you're putting the research, and can you really benefit from it. Third thing is, before you even join, make sure you have the skill set. Do the market research, see which job you're going to do, and make sure that you can join to part-time job. You can prepare, you can organize for this thing. When you do those 3 things quite excellent level, your career is already set. You know, nothing can stop you.
What
And
kind
and
of
I learned is studying overseas. Another thing I learned is it's just not about education. Your horizons are different. You know, you see different culture, you see different places, you see different perspective. You meet lots of other people, and you listen to this TED talk or whatever it could be. Listen to all those things. You learn from other people so many fascinating things. You know, it's an amazing world out there, and you are lucky because this is the where the world is recent in peace. The pandemic is come and gone, and maybe there in the background, but it's a time where the economy is changing, the technology is changing. It's all in a much better fast pace. So if you are a technical people, management persons, or postgraduate student, you are in an absolutely fascinating time point in your life. Lots of idiots and media will say that job market is down, it's all challenging. To me, it's all rubbish. To me, if you guys are capable, if you guys are passionate, you can create enterprise, you can create jobs, you can go and find whatever you want in life. So that will be sort of my conclusive messages.
university ranking versus cheap education? What's your thought on those?
It depends again what course you do. University ranking doesn't mean much, because you study in Oxford, did everybody in Oxford make into the CEO of the company? Not necessarily. So it's based on what course you're going to do, what location is it, what value you get from the course. And if the university ranking is much at the lower end, it doesn't matter, provided it's, as I said, there are some cooked up colleges and universities. As far as you're not applying to one of them because it's very cheap. If you are applying to a proper university, look at their registration, look at the college's background, look at the alumni and various other association. If they are good, even a cheap course and a cheaper university and a lower rank can still add phenomenal value to you. Because in UK in interview process, I haven't recruited a single person based on which university they come from. Because I spent 10 years in Reckitt Benckiser. RB was one of the fastest growing company in UK in FTSE. That's a Reckitt and Coleman, now called Reckitt Benckiser. That's a company make your Dettol to Harpic to a range of FTSE's top 100 products. So that companies, we had somewhere like well over 80,000 staff globally, but I was involved in so many recruitment. I don't think a single recruitment is based on the university ranking. It's not based on the grade of the university. It's based on the competence of the person. It's based on the skill of the person, based on their experience.
Is it better to settle one's life in UK rather than India? Is the process of doing so too complex for Indians?
See, Indians are extremely adaptable. We can adapt anywhere. But that's one skill we learn. And if we are not having that skill, we are lost something. Either we are living in a very comfort zone. We have to come out of comfort zone. So easy living in UK is dependent on what you want to do. See, if you ask me, where do I comfortable? I'm more comfortable to come to live in Kerala because that's my hometown, that's my family, that's my friends are. Even if these mosquitoes are there, temperature is bad, I love to be there and back in my home. To me, that's where my identity is. I still have my Indian passport. My passport is that thick because I have to travel a lot, but I still maintain my Indian passport because I'm such a committed, passionate Indian. And that's the reason I have a business even in Kochi, because that's an excuse for me to come down to India. But can you settle in UK? Absolutely. If you settle in UK, the life is simple. You work Monday to Friday, weekends are holidays. You have school education is free, hospital is free. Your government will give you a pension when you're retired. The infrastructures are brilliant. So if you want a very calm, peaceful life with an excellent financial safety, it's a perfect place, for no extremes of weather. Winter is there, but it's not like some part of US where you get deep snow or something. You can get a drizzling snow and go away. It rains 280 days. It rains or drizzles in UK maybe, but that's passed away. It just happens in the background. But sometimes you have to think, as Indians, we're such a great country, such a great economy. Do you really want to take your skills and capability to an overseas country and contribute to them, to their economy, or you want to bring that back to your home country? That's a different question.
True. Is it tough to get a PR?
No, because if you have 5 years under a work permit, or if you have continuous employment 5 years, you go through the natural process. There is no competition. There is no examination to qualify. It's a default process. But you have to be completely legal. Don't make sure that there is no cock up in your visas or something you've done outside the norms. If you follow the rules, straightforward.
Any more questions, guys? What kind of part-time jobs do you have there, Giby? Just out of curiosity.
A range of, if there are 3 types of job. One, the jobs what you can do in university, so which can be right from helping the library, cleaning the hostels, serving food and everything, or teaching assistants. On a range of job you can do in university. That's always in high demand, so you have to apply well in advance and make sure they do it. Okay. Second one is within surrounding of university, which could be restaurants, which could be clubs, which could be industries. It can be packing job, can be delivery job. And if you have an international license, you come with, you're confident driving, you may be able to do some support jobs around. That's a second element of job. Third job, remote job. Now the world is virtual. So now you may be able to do a range of job within UK. An evening shift, managing somebody's database, managing activities. So there are range. I have seen people in London doing projects in Scotland as students. I just spoke to a couple of Mallu students 3-4 months ago, coincidentally, in a restaurant. And they were all doing some database management for an IT company as part-time. So they start 5 in the evening till 1 in the night, and they're getting very well paid. They're doing the comfort of their house, and one person is cooking. They're still doing the earplug and things. And I thought, wow, how creative. In the past, when I started, we have to literally go and do clean the hostels and clean the toilets and all sort of a hard job. And nowadays, they're getting much more better paid by having a headphone.
Yes, true, true. Um, any more questions, guys? Okay. So looks
Brilliant.
like, yeah, looks like they've asked all their questions. So thank you, Giby. Thank you so much. It was such an educational um, session. I mean, I think most of their questions have been answered. And actually, your session was such that I don't think there was any question to be asked. You had covered everything
Thank you.
from the information to the gyan to the motivation. Everything was covered. So it was a fantastic session. Thank you, Giby.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for your time.
So,
Thank
Maya, if you let me know any other topics which we haven't covered after the discussion, I'll add into the slide and send to you, so you can
you.
then
Sure.
share with your students.
For
So
sure.
I'm really proud that you coordinated such an effort, and it's brilliant. So this is what if add value to any of
It's
those
actually
students.
it's actually, and I would like to correct you there. It's actually the students. So the Cochin University has got a lot of clubs. These clubs
Wow,
together, they come together, and they are doing it for for the student community at large.
amazing.
So it's,
So
yeah,
maybe
it's a total
when I'm in
success.
Kerala next time, I might come and have a coffee with them. So it's
Yes, for
quite
sure.
encouraging to
I will.
see.
Yes, I will tell them
No,
for sure. They're doing a brilliant job, GB, and they do it along with their studies. So they're
amazing.
doing it without any kind of recognition or any money being paid for it. They're doing it on their own. So it's a great initiative on their
See,
part.
that's the first step of those kids are involved in that activity. I could say their life is half done, their career is already made, because it's just not the academics things. This sort of events they coordinate, this sort of discussion they involve, it can all have a trigger point in your brain. Just one flick in the switch can make you think. Then you can think, wow, there are lots more I can do, and they flourish from there.
Yes,
Fascinating to see. So anything I
seriously, a
can help
lot.
in the future, give me a shout. I'll be more than happy to help any of those aspiring students to have guidance and
For
support
sure.
within our limitation. And I can actually help them to network with my Malayali and Indian employees. Then they have a much better perspective than me, because they just gone through the process very recently. So
Yes.
then they can learn from each other.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, for sure. Lot of students actually, GB, they are now doing things outside their academics as well, not just for their, to give to the community. They're doing a lot of stuff, not just in technical space or the community space or whatever. So I think today's generation is really rocking. I mean, they really help out. They try to do a lot. So without
Brilliant.
getting the recognition or whatever. So they're doing it for the sake of for helping. So that is a wonderful thing that they're doing. So yeah.
Pleasure.
So,
Brilliant. All of you
thank
have
you
a
so
great
much.
weekend. So good luck with your career. So maybe we may connect some point in the future again. Take
For
care.
sure. Thank
Bye
you.
bye bye.
Yes, bye. Thank you, guys. See you next week. Next week we are having two sessions. The first session is going to be military to engineering to military. So any one of you want to go to armed forces, that thing is there, and the other one is for